Here's an adventure we took with some friends going down to Temecula to go on a hot air balloon ride. A while back we challenged each other to do it, and so here we go. It just happened that this was also a Western Days celebration in Old Town Temecula. One of the festivities was a reenactment of the shootout at the OK Corral, performed right on Main Street. Lots of gunshots and smoke. And then we took a short trip out into the surrounding wine country to see what it looked like. Quite beautiful countryside. We also spent some time doing some wine tasting at some of the local wineries. And then early the next morning, very early, 5:15 a.m., we had to meet to be transported out to our launch site. The first thing the crew did was to lay out these tarps on the launch site so that they could spread out the balloon. And the first thing off the trailer was the basket, which was to be our home for the next hour and a half. And once the balloon was spread out on the tarp, they began inflating it by pumping hot air into it. It was quite interesting watching this operation. It was quite obvious that they'd done it before. And before long, it really started to look like a balloon. That flame provides the hot air. And then we were herded into the basket with lots of exposed asses and elbows getting over the rail. There were a dozen of us in there, including the pilot, and yes, they do call him a pilot. And here's the fully inflated balloon, ready for us to get started. Here's an adjacent balloon to us, still getting ready. And here it is, finally lifting off. There were several other balloons right in our fleet, all of us starting off at just about the same time. And once in the air, we could look around and begin to see where we were. Here's a look back at our launch site. We were originally intended to fly over the Temecula wine country, but early morning fog required a change of plans. We found that we were flying over farms and ranches and estates rather than the wine country. In any case, it was quite beautiful country to see from the air. And here's some of that early morning fog that I was talking about. Our pilot maintained radio contact with the crew in the trailer and the van below us so that they could kind of keep us in sight. Actually, the skill of the pilot is the one that kept us up there. He used bursts of flame with hot air to get the balloon to maintain altitude, and he could rotate the balloon a bit, but actually the wind took us where it wanted to go mostly. And then we watched as one of our fellow ballooners thought he had found a landing spot. Unfortunately, the wind, which actually was fairly mild, wouldn't let him set down in this spot. So he had to go back on up again to find another place. And then it was our turn to set down. And already waiting for us was our van and trailer. That shadow is us. And so we sat down right in the middle of that dirt road. And then some more pushing and shoving and lifting to get us over the rail and out of that basket. And then we watched again to watch the crew work their tails off, getting the tarp down, the balloon down on it, and the balloon emptied and wrapped up. There were 4 of them in the crew, plus the pilot, and it was obviously that they'd done it before. Then the balloon was stuffed into a relatively small bag and lifted on up into the trailer, followed by our home away from home, the basket. Then it was back in the van and a road trip back to our original meeting place for a champagne breakfast. And here we are, getting ready for that. Here's our pilot, who had just recently come back from ballooning in Africa, of all places. We all thought he really did a great job. He also had a great sense of humor that tended to keep us a little bit more relaxed, even to get us to look over the rim for the jackalope that he claimed he'd spotted. And so ended a great weekend that we all thoroughly enjoyed.